All right. All right. Hi, everybody. Square, you got to back the screen up because I'm lost. I don't have my script. Hi, everybody. Welcome to MVP Office Hours. Today is November 4th. It's definitely a Friday, 2022. We are here today to talk to everybody about the cool stuff. We've got Dale and we've got Squire. We've got myself, Joy, and you can find us, well, in a couple different places, but you can find us on LinkedIn, you can find us on Twitter, you can find us in the Trailblazer community groups, and you can connect with us at mvpofficehoursus@gmail.com. But the best place to get to us is the success community, because we can, talk to more people there. Did I cover everything on this one? You guys, it's been a minute. All right, so welcome to all of you, current and future MVPs also. We ask that everybody participate, share your experience, insight, and recommendations with the group. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't, be snarky about it, and just send it to one person in the chat little message, because that's so sad for us. But do feel free to post valuable links, resources, and answers in the chat. If you have a question, post your question in the chat, like the general question in the chat. Or just raise your hand with the reactions while you're on the call. That way we can kind of keep everybody in order of, when they brought their question up. We do recommend sharing your screen, but please, 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 please do not share any private data or information with us, because we are recording the session and it will be posted on YouTube in a public space. And we don't want anyone to get in trouble about stuff like that. And then there's a warning for Dale, like, we love to have everyone fun and be informal, but do keep it professional, because the recording gets posted to a public space. Reminder, we do meet on the first and third Fridays. Our next call is November 18th. Ooh, right before Thanksgiving. Registration link is on the screen. The bit.ly is MVPOH. Hi, Rochelle. And you can catch the recordings in the community and the Twitter link and YouTube. And if you're going to post, we would love for you to use the hashtags Problem Solve Together, Community Learner, and MVPOH, so that we can kind of collect it all together. Next slide, please, Squire. Thanks so much. We have some upcoming community events, Kosovo Dreaming, Wit Dreamin' in India, French Touch Dreamin' in France, and man, I need my passport for these. And then there are a couple of Salesforce events. We've got World Tour New York for those of you that are, well, going to New York in December, or, well, local. And then Trailblazer DX 2023 in San Francisco in March. We'd love to see you guys, all that good stuff.
And then I don't know if it's too soon to put on there, but Salesforce did send out the save the dates for Dreamforce next year.
Yeah, so go to dreamforce.com and register for like the first, what is the dates? Is it September 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th? That week?
I think it's 12 through 14.
Yeah, it's right before my kid's birthday. So I was like, oh, I can't go because it's not on his birthday. So yay. And then of course we would love to see you all in Trailblazer groups, virtual signups, meeting invites, all that good stuff. We want to see you more than just first and third. You're so cute, Squire. We'd love to see you more than the first and third Fridays, but here we are. Next slide, sir. Thank you. Resources. just keep things rolling.
So really quick, we haven't had any new updates on the Resource Hall of Fame, but I did want to call something out. So the link that's on here, I need to change out, goes to the standard Salesforce documentation. It's looks like an outline with numbers and letters, and it's hard to read. If you haven't been there, the well-architected site has a really nice order of execution graphical representation. You should check it out. I will try to find a link to it before we're up and come back to it, and that's the one we're going to update it here. But it's so much nicer and easier to work through and well written, and there's cool graphics, and so keep that in mind. But otherwise, we haven't any new updates to this list in quite a while.
Fantastic. All right, where are we? Who are we starting with?
So Tony's the easy one, because I think she said she wasn't going to be able to attend. I didn't look at the roster. She's not on, is she? So she had some questions about merging fields to a post chat URL Had some questions, couple little comments, not a lot of help, but I know that there's some people that have feedback in that space. If you know Service Cloud and chat functionality, if you don't mind checking out that post and make some suggestions, I'm sure Tony would appreciate it. So that's the only reason it's here.
All right, so if you have answers for Tony, if you can like toss those into the community Trailblazer group, right?
Yep.
Can you put that link into the chat, Squire?
Sure.
And that way, if anyone has that that information, they can click on it because they can't click on your screen.
That's okay.
And then I think the next question we had up was Andrea asking about posting updates Slack. So if you could explain a little bit more about what you're trying to do, that'd be great.
Yes. So the general request is to essentially say, it posts into a Slack channel. Here's what our numbers were today. We're aggregate a field on the opportunity. So here's our daily number. Here's our, and then a weekly, and then a monthly. I feel like that's fairly straightforward, no big deal. Like flow, query, summit, great. Post in Slack with Slack actions and flow. And like I said, the fun part becomes that we want to compare it to the company's best daily, weekly, monthly, which I don't know that those we're not currently there's not currently a value stored in Salesforce. And I know I could do that. I could probably do that with reporting snapshot, but then I'm wondering, do I have to create 3 different snapshots that run on it? Like, yeah. How do I make all that work? If that all makes sense.
Oh, you stumped everybody.
How far back in time do you need to go?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, my thought is, let's say I post, let's say let's say we're only going to do it in one increment, and we're only going to post like monthly. I would essentially backfill that snapshot record. I would go back and create. My thought is I'll go back and create a record, like find out what the number is, and go back and create that snapshot record. And then just compare it to that. And then subsequent ones would just compare, find the highest monthly snapshot and which value, how does it compare? And just wondering if how to, again, in my perfect world, I would be able to capture if the snapshot is a daily, a weekly, a monthly, and then in the flow, find the daily, find all the daily and just show me the one with the most value. It would essentially a pick list that's is it daily, weekly, monthly? Well, I don't know.
What is the value of having daily, weekly, monthly? Isn't daily and picking a certain date the same thing?
Well, it's an aggregate. So in an individual day, how much? So we essentially submit business without getting into all the nitty gritty. Submit business on a daily. What is the aggregate? Every day. Here's what we submitted on Monday versus Tuesday, whatever. But then what's the aggregate of the week or the aggregate of the month? So we're not looking we're comparing. What did we submit in October, and how does that compare to the company's best month thus far?
So same question, because if you take a snapshot with a daily post and then aggregate by the date, you get the weekly aggregate or the monthly aggregate. I just want to make sure you're not overcomplicating the data collection.
Which is a reasonable possibility.
Yeah. So okay. So I'll say first that I don't have a lot of Slack integration knowledge, but couldn't you create your snapshot, have a scheduled report, and use Flow to post the report to Slack? I thought there was a way to do that.
Well, I think another question to ask also In addition to that, yes, Squire. In addition to that is what are Slack's integration parameter capabilities or limitations in terms of, if we were running this in Salesforce strictly like on it, back when it was custom links before we actually had report charts, you'd do like a PV0 equals FV0 equals whatever. But I don't know if that's in the realm of possible of this kind of integration to minimize the number of reports and all of that kind of stuff.
Jack, feel free to come off mute and speak if you have some knowledge. You're welcome to join us.
Yeah, sorry. So I mean, I've fooled around with Slack integration a bit, and I know that you can set up a like custom object and say like what fields you want to post to Slack and things like that, and how the record is displayed. So, and at the end of the day, a snapshot is just a record, right, of all the report fields. So you should be able to post an individual snapshot to Slack. As far as your like day versus week versus month, I think Squire was hitting the right idea, or maybe it wasn't Squire that was saying it, whoever was asking it. You should the last day of the month will be your month one, right? And if the date is divisible by 7, maybe you could call it a week or something. There's ways to figure out the day of the week. Monday, Tuesday,
but
Wednesday,
it's not going to be, sorry, it's not going to be like an aggregate of the month. It's like, what did we post? Like how does today compared to our best day ever? How does this week, the aggregate for this week compared to the best week ever? How does this month compare to like the aggregate of the month?
Boy, is creating some sort of I'm really thinking outside the box here. Maybe like you need almost like a child object where you can roll up like the max value or something.
Yeah. Well, that's why like that was my thought of with just doing another get in sales in the flow is like find, like I said, find all, I mean, I don't know the amount of yeah, I don't like, you know what? And if it comes down to the fact that like, I mean, I'm in a point where it's like a research thing. If what I give them is saying I like we could here's V1 is posting these on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. We have like I can go back to the drawing board with people and be like, how do we, again, what's a way to compare? Because you have to, I want to somehow obviously have to store the value in Salesforce.
So that's what I was going to bring up is eventually you're going to hit a point where you're going to have an object of data that means nothing. 99% of that data means nothing because it wasn't the best.
Yeah.
And that's going to cost you data storage. I hate
not,
to say it, but
right. It's not worth, I think that it sounds like
like where I'm going with that is I almost wonder if like a Tableau or a more sophisticated reporting engine that has the capability of isolating points in time to compare to an aggregate versus here's my object of data, take this one, compare it to this one. Like,
I could see where we would say, like, in theory, you really only need to ever store one value. Like you really only need to store a daily, a weekly, a monthly, like one record of each, and go back. And like if today's aggregate is greater, replace it. Or like
I think you almost need to just look at like, I think Tableau, CRM Analytics, Wave, Edge Spring, whatever we're calling it this week.
Lightning, like, you forgot Lightning. Put Lightning in front of it.
Lightning goes in front of it now? Or was that in the middle? Did I miss one of the different renames? But looking at whatever we're calling it for the week, which is like the advanced reporting, whatever you want to call it, that I'm pretty sure has a lot of the different functionality that you're kind of looking for.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like what you're doing is workarounds around it. You don't want to have to duplicate data. To duplicate data, what you really need to do is have a tool that technically, I think Edge Spring, Wave, CRM Analytics is duplicate-ish when you go and you do joins and stuff like that in it for it, but because it's not real time, it's doing stuff I think you can do every 15 minutes. But that would allow you to go back and do a search, find a grouping of time. I think a lot of it's there.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in it
I
though.
wonder.
but-
Well, so one other thing I'll throw to add on to what Jack is saying is, was it Jack or Andrew?
That was me, Andrew.
Andrew. If you take snapshots, you are freezing that data. And especially if you're talking
Yeah.
about any kind of sales data that may still have some final polishing or any kind of fluctuations, if you're using a more robust tool that is able to isolate a period of time in data, that data is still allowed to live and get to its finalization point over time, instead of saying, at the end of the day, this was the data. And if it gets updated, well, guess what? It's lost from your snapshot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
maybe
I-
recording snapshot isn't what you really mean. You're really just
I
creating
think-
log records, right?
Yeah, I think because Jack posted in the chat about a holder record that isn't a snapshot, and I'm like, not creating. Can a flow update a value in a custom metadata type field? Because
So-
creating a level of effort to create an object versus a custom metadata type, and then just have like a daily, a weekly, a monthly, and compare like that's. And then if it's greater, like post the thing in Slack. If it's greater, replace the value.
Even if
So
you can't do a custom metadata field, I mean, you could just have an object that nobody can access, or that they have read access to, but doesn't have a tab or like visibility. on
Yeah,
it.
like a something hidden in the recess. Like, but
But
is it worth
I think you
creating a
can
custom an
update.
object? You know,
I think you can update metadata records with Flow, though. I might be mistaken, but I feel like I've seen
It's
that before.
worth a
So-
worth a shot to try. I mean, I'm
So-
willing to try it.
So one,
so-
I'm gonna leave personally with a closing thought here, and then we do need to start to move on, because there are a lot of different approaches. We've had a lot of calls, and the ecosystem is saying this as a whole, where flow becomes our answer to everything. We're creating a ton of technical debt for potentially small things. We're trying to get a pat of butter for our bread with a chainsaw, and eventually that becomes untenable. So just keep that in the back of your mind of, yes, you could do it with the flow and do all these things, but what else are you using flow for? Or are there other tools? And I'm going to put that on the table and shut up, but just keep that in mind,
Yeah.
as this adds up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I appreciate the discussion, and it helps me get my mind turning and thinking. And we do have a data analytics tool that is not a Salesforce product. So I will see if that could be used as well. But I appreciate the conversation. So thank y'all.
All right. I think we've got Marty up next.
We got
Right.
Marty. Yep.
Marty.
This is Marty. Hello.
Hi, Marty.
Quick question. Anybody have a SMS text solution that they like? And as I noted, the client is a professional edition, so that eliminates a number of choices. As I was doing some research, the one that I found that has pretty good 5-star reviews was 360 SMS. If anybody has any comments, period. End of statement.
Jack, you and I've not used it. Anyone?
I see one, but again, same thing.
Proton for the win,
Yeah.
but like you need
No
API
professional.
call out.
Yeah, they don't, yeah.
To,
Yeah,
I don't know if you can, does the one that you said does that work for professional?
it does work for professional, but you just mentioned something.
Does it
They do
say
not
that you can
have-
use it, or does it just not, does it say professional, but like, have you tested it? Because sometimes they don't actually like just put a disclaimer that says that it doesn't work for it, because that's something that ISV gets to choose what editions they just choose. It's like a option for them.
Good point. I will check that out. Thank you very much.
So I would look
So-
into that.
What's the use case for needing to send an SMS?
They want to, rather than send emails to customers, they want to be able to send text messages.
So it's
So
more
they
on the
do-
marketing side rather than a transactional notification.
Exactly, and it's more like
Gotcha.
a thank you or they also have maps. So sometimes
Okay.
it's people going to visit and they want to just double check that somebody's going to be there, like a property manager, for example.
Gotcha. Because it's a lot of things that a lot of people tend to overlook is that technically you can take a mobile phone number and get an email address out of it.
Yes,
So,
no, but
but-
in some cases, it's people that may not use email, but you do have phones. in
Well,
their
you can
hand.
email to a phone number is what I think
Right.
he's saying. So if I have your phone number, if I know that you have
Right.
Verizon, I can send it to your phone number at, I think it's like VZW
Right.
something.
Picks, vzwpicks.com or
Right.
something like that.
Exactly.
But you
And
have to know that they're Verizon.
You have to know their carrier.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
But even at that, I would look at the app exchange app that you're looking at, because realistically, I know Proton Text. I mean, he's an awesome guy that he started Proton Text, but like, if he could make it work for professional, he would have. So I think that there's probably some limitation on just the API callouts with the addition that all app exchange apps have the same limitations. Certain
That
developers
makes
don't have
total
extra
sense.
stuff.
Right.
So you
And
might
they-
want to just be
well,
careful.
Yeah, and maybe now that you said that, though, that rang a bell in my head, that they do not have the API add-in, I guess I'd call it. Like, I can't use data loader, for example. They don't have the API feature. It's pretty basic. So that may be why people don't check the professional, because that doesn't come with professional and it's not cheap. All right. Thank you, everybody. Good point.
Absolutely.
All right. So after Marty, we have
Rochelle.
Rochelle. Thank you for keeping things on the up and up. Rochelle, are you here? Rochelle?
Yes, I am. Hey,
What's
how
your
are
big
you?
question? Tell us all about
Oh, I'm gonna buy some Powerball tickets and just hope they win. This is just not fun at all. Anyways, what happened is that I encouraged the sales team and customer service, well, actually the entire company, we're a very small company, to start using Einstein Activity Tracker. And we use the add-in so they can start relating their emails. And long story short, I found out the hard way that it doesn't say the actual email attached to the attachments on the emails. So I contacted Salesforce to figure out if I did something wrong, and they said, no, if you want the attachments to come into the object, you need to basically pay more and have the inbox, which is, they gave us a special price of $15 a user. And inbox does all kinds of really cool things, but our group is probably not going to use it. But anyways, long story short, I wanted to find out if anybody had any kind of words of wisdom about inbox. Some of our users are finding that they cannot see their email attachment on the email as it comes into Salesforce. It's not there as an attachment. It's like, where is it? And long story short, I always say the same thing to my husband. This is a group who's been starving to death. They haven't used Salesforce. They've had it for 12 years. They never did anything with it. And it's like telling a starving man, here's a hamburger, and they turn to you and go, where's the steak? You know, they want all the whistles and bells. They want everything to work perfectly, and it's just very frustrating. So I was wondering if the group can shed any answers on inbox with me.
I will give you this. I have been in a similar situation. We turned on Einstein Activity Capture, and then the business jumped all over inbox. And then they got a little bit bent about reporting from inbox because they couldn't track the number of things easily. Because we didn't have Tableau, we didn't have CRM, we didn't have Einstein. And we ended up backing it out. So that is my experience with that. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't nice. It's very similar to what you're describing.
Okay.
Even with me knowing about the pitfalls going into it, the business kept pushing. And eventually I got to the point where I was like, if you think this is going to solve everything, even though I've like cautioned you on X, Y, and Z, I mean, who am I to say you're wrong? I guess I tried,
Okay.
but I would check to make sure everyone has visibility into the is it saving as files or is it saving as email, the email object, or what is it saving as? I
See,
forget.
that's the thing. What I'm seeing is that it's saving the email file on the, I guess you'd say the email that came in from Salesforce from Outlook on the side panel. So it's saving the email. It's not in as an attachment or possibly even in a file. And
isn't
now
that a task? Doesn't that become a task?
I think it becomes a task. Yeah. The
Emails
thing
are a
that's
type of task, yes.
yeah, the thing that's really isn't working for me is that, and I kind of feel like my Salesforce salesperson should have mentioned it. According to the stuff I'm seeing online, those email attachments don't live in Salesforce for very long.
They don't
Are you
live in
talking
Salesforce
about-
at all.
Are you
They
talking
live
about
in
Einstein
Amazon.
activity? Yeah, if you're talking about Einstein activity capture, it's never in Salesforce. It's virtualized data. When
Yeah.
you view Einstein activity capture, it's stored in Amazon Web Services, and it's virtualized at the time of viewing the activity timeline, which
Okay.
sucks for reporting. You can use Salesforce. I don't know what editions with it is. I'm not a salesperson, so you'll have to contact them to get a bunch of propaganda and marketing stuff. But they do give you, with certain licenses, you go to use an activity dashboard with, it's an Einstein Analytics Studio one, and license wise, you're not supposed to use it for anything but that. But you technically can use it for anything because you'll have like a couple licenses, and you can view it because it can virtualize the data and view it. But that just gives you it in a dashboard, which kind of sucks. There is some pilot stuff that's going on right now with the Sales Cloud team, who's trying to give you actual reporting like normal inside of Salesforce for Einstein
So
activity capture emails.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just went through this and paid for the extra, so I can just kind of shed a little bit of light on this. So there's 3 different ways that you can get basically unlock the activity metrics. The activity metrics is what you need to report on. So like what Andrew said is true. You get the dashboard, but the dashboard's like super limited to what you can do with it. Like you can basically look by person, by account. There's like 3 ways you can look at it.
And 180 days too.
180 days, there's a fixed limit to it, but that's true even if you pay for the upgrade. So there's a fixed limit to how far back it goes, but the dashboard's like, there's only 3 ways you can do it. You can't customize it. So if you want access to what's called the activity metrics, you have to pay one of 3 ways to unlock it. The one I paid for is actually getting the Einstein activity capture. And I guess I have a good sales rep because he told me I only had to get 1 license. So I paid for 1 license of the Einstein, $50 a month, and then it unlocks all the activity metrics. And so the activity metrics are still pretty limited, but it does tell you, it does actually activate the last activity date, which is one thing you lose with Einstein activity capture. So if someone sends an email through Einstein activity capture, it doesn't update the last activity date unless you pay to unlock the activity metrics. So you get the last activity date, you get the last email date, and then you get 2 other stats. One is activities in the last 7 days and activities in the last 30 days. But those are real time. So if you want them, if you want to keep those, you have to like save them to a record somewhere, which is not great, but that's what we're doing now. So what's basically like how many emails were sent in the last week. I'll save that each Sunday morning and it'll tell me what the previous week was.
One other thing to add on to that of buying 1 license, if you do have a single license for it, or you have like unlimited, I think to also get, there's a couple things that unlock it. You can upgrade your retention from 24 months to 5 years if you have that. So all you need is a single EAC license, or there's a couple other ways to have it, and you can log a case with support and they will increase your retention on EAC emails in AWS to 5 years. If you pay for it and don't do that, well, I guess that's up to you. It does have an impact technically on storage or like on speed. They say, I haven't noticed it though, but 5 years makes a lot of sense for a lot of sales teams to be able to actually go back and not lose it right after 24 months.
Yeah.
We just,
My sales team, again, I'm truly in hell, by the way. I just want you to know. They want to keep stuff for 15 years because that's what they've done always. So they actually have used Box as their retention, document retention. And I'm like, well, so they have things literally in Box, then they save it on in their email files and it gets archived. And then they also want to save it in Salesforce. I'm like, why do you need to save it on all these different places? If you know, so here I was selling them on the idea that it should just be in Salesforce once and done. And now I have to go back to them and say, well, guess what? It's not going to save the stuff that you're getting through the activity capture forever and ever. So that's something I'm going to have to investigate.
One thing though, too, you should know is that tasks don't get saved forever and ever. Just
yes.
FYI, tasks auto delete. I don't remember what the length is, but tasks get archived.
Archived, totally different.
It's 12 months by
Different.
default, I think.
Yeah, it's archived. It's archived, not deleted. But tasks. So if people don't realize that, though, at some point after buying sales, they'll start wondering, why are my tasks not showing and I can't see them?
Exactly.
So like, even if they were saved as tasks, you would still be in a bad spot, I guess.
I think, Rochelle, you said you do not have inbox. So
no, I just got inbox this week.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that would bump it up to 24-month retention. For our workaround for our attachments, because we have the same issue, just tell everybody to drag and drop into the files. Take the important ones, whatever you think is important, drag drop into files, and that's just how we do it.
You know, I'm almost
Very manual.
Yeah, and I mean, I read a lot of the knowledge articles and questions and things, and it sounds like, you know, a lot and I've of course upvoted for it to be changed, but it just seems to me that if you're going to save emails using the Einstein activity tracker, why wouldn't you want the attachment with it? And I think I'm going to probably end up just doing this inbox as a trial basis, and then go back to just having them, you know, upload, because I can just imagine the yelling and screaming is going to go on if they can't find their emails, you know, their email attachments and things.
What I found is that I haven't seen Salesforce be able to replace Outlook, even though a lot of people would love for that to happen and have it all together. So we are all wishing you the very best of luck.
Technically, you could argue Salesforce is trying to replace Outlook by having acquired Slack.
See, that's interesting. That's probably completely true. And one of the things, you know, I mean, and I'm not as techy as all of you, and I really admire your, you know, I watch your brains. It's the fact that, you know, if you want to save attachments that come in on the emails, they're going to charge you. You know, it's all about storage and how much.
That's why, like, the Einstein activity capture is free. It's to get you hooked on the possibilities, right? And then you creep into the paid space. So it's by design.
Yeah.
It's like McDonald's gets you hooked on fries, and then they introduced the supersize meal.
That sounds delicious right now. Okay. Well, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to. Obviously, there's lots of people behind me. I just.
No, you're right. You're right.
I think that I made a bad call. You know, I went ahead and I said, well, they have this product. Went to the owner, explained it. They gave us a special price of $15 a user per month. It's not terrible, but I think that maybe after the holidays, we'll try it for a good 6 weeks and then say, well, it's not really going to suit our needs.
Can I validate you? And
yes,
and it's never a bad call. You're in kind of a tough position of trying to kickstart something that has been stuck for a very long time. Like you're just trying to pull ideas out of the bag to figure out something, anything. And so that's a huge undertaking that whether you see it immediately or not, you are doing. So definitely kudos to you on that. I mean, it may not be the most implementable idea, but you're trying. Like that's the best you can do is try. So
starting like that's
exactly.
It's you got to start somewhere, and there
Yeah,
will be
before we jump-
Melissa posted in the chat that Serious Insight is a third-party tool that might do better about what you're trying to do. I don't know if it's going to be a $15 price point. Melissa, you can chime in. Unmute yourself first though, honey. The if you know the pricing on that.
Service Insight. I'm going to take a look at that.
The other thing, just before we lose track of it in the thread, Jack made a couple recommendations to check from a configuration side.Maybe you got them and you don't realize it. Maybe 5 or 6 posts up about ensuring that the attachments, like configuration and the lists are accurate. So just check those.
And it might be files too, because they've been switching out of attachments. So make sure like the file related list is available on the actual task record that it's saving for the email.
Precisely.
Or the related record, right? Like sometimes it's not even on the email, it's on the parent, depending on configuration. So
related record. Can I ask really one quick question? And this is kind of a really simple thing. I had set everybody up with the Einstein activity tracker standard originally, and then we went to inbox. Do I have to take that? It's actually, I put the permission set as Einstein inbox with Einstein activity tracker. Do I have to take off the Einstein standard off the profiles? You know?
I would test it first. I mean, I know Sandbox, normally it's tested in a Sandbox first before you pull the plug on anything, but
yeah,
you're working with something that's really only meant to exist in production. So if you
absolutely
can figure out a way to test in a Sandbox before completely pulling the plug, I would. Just because you don't want to have an additional negative consequence of also losing access to data on specific objects or anything. So you should be fine. You just need to make absolutely sure you don't over revoke.
Okay.
One last thing before we jump to Jack too. I feel like, and Joy, you might be able to help me with this. I feel like there was commentary made at Dreamforce that Salesforce knows EAC is painful and they're working on it, ... forward-looking statement. Does that?
I do believe that rumor was made. I don't know if it's true.
Okay.
Forward-looking
Well, I
statement.
thought somebody said it in a keynote. Didn't Cheryl speak to it at the fires or at the True to the Core?
Let's find that. Let's find that.
I mean, again, there was literally no other details if there was anything
can?
said, and that means nothing, but it could change.
I
I kind
heard
of
the
know
same
the
thing,
insight. I've been working with the Sales Cloud product team on it. So there's a lot of sentiment and feedback that we've given. Like if I look in the Slack channel with them, a lot of the comments and stuff that we've all been talking about has been related to EAC, as well as being able to better report inside of Salesforce natively, because it sucks having to go and use Einstein to go do it. And it's so those pain points have been noted. Also the filterability on the timeline, because you could end up with so many emails that are going back and forth with some. It's just hard when you're trying to like view only the salespeople's emails versus you're trying to view accounting who might be those type of things. So there is work being done. Can't speak too much to the exact stuff or timelines or anything. Make all investment decisions based on what there is today, but there is work being done on it, and they know that there's some shortfalls, areas that there could be a lot of improvement to help make salespeople's lives better.
For sure.
So.
Yeah, it's just here for the user adoption. You want things to go smoothly and try to explain it is really the state of the art method.
If they would rather go and manually log emails one by one and spend 20 seconds per email and try and log each one, and that's more efficient for their time use. Like if you position what the alternative is, there should be a clear win of, okay, I can see the email. I can't maybe see the attachment there, but just go look in your inbox At least you
Yeah.
can get some context. What happens when an employee leaves the company? Their inbox is gone, but guess what? EAC has all those emails still. So you can actually see what conversations happen. There's a lot of benefits to it when you
Yeah.
look at EAC.
Yeah, I think with my team, and they're not real understanding, they bought this, as one person said to me, they bought the Cadillac of CMS, and ended up that they literally are using to deliver pizzas. So they never in 12 years they've never even called Salesforce. They've never created an object. They never did anything with this product. And now they want to know why it doesn't work absolutely perfectly when we're trying to make changes and gather user adoption. So, yeah. So I do appreciate everyone's input. I guess I needed to hear it from the experts why this product doesn't seem to be completely as promised. So, okay, thank you.
All right, so thank you, Rochelle. We can always talk about that particular topic. Till Andrew has the improvements already, like with the product team, right? I know. Jack, tell us what you're working on.
And welcome, Jack, by the way.
Yeah,
thank you.
welcome.
Appreciate it. Just found this group, so happy to hop in here.
How did you find us?
Be useful. I don't know. It was recommended to me on Trailhead, I think.
All right, great. I love it. We love it.
Anywho, sorry, my question's really simple, but also for what it's worth, my also small org who adoption has been very troublesome with, and also owns Salesforce for like 2 years without touching it or understanding that you needed somebody to admin it in order to make it useful. They also don't like throwing money at Salesforce because they already think it's way overpriced. So Einstein activity capture, marketing call, all these things are like not something that our org is willing to do. And I constantly am trying to figure out alternatives. So last comment on the email stuff, I mentioned it before. If people are using G Suite in your organization, like Gmail, the free Chrome extension works great for logging email, and it logs attachments, no problems. We've been using it for years, and it's free. So just tossing that out there. But it's not going to be near as robust as activity capture is, but for what it's worth. Anyway, my question's simple. It just so happens that I'm here, so I thought I'd ask it instead of continuing to dig around on the interwebs. On a scheduled path within a record triggered flow, I know that the entry criteria is not reassessed, but if I have a decision element on the scheduled path, is it looking at, and it's looking at the record values like record dot whatever, is it reassessing that at the time that the scheduled flow runs or at the time that the scheduled flow is like created or queued up? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
So let me say it back to you just because I think I understand what your question is. So a record trigger flow fires. There's a decision point that says if X and Y, then do something 2 weeks from now.
Kind of. No, it's more like the record trigger flow fires and part of it has a scheduled path that just is scheduled to run 2 weeks later. And in that scheduled path, the first thing I do is have a decision element that says, hey, is record dot field equal to such and such a value? If so, carry on. Otherwise, do nothing.
Got it. So your decision point is after calling the schedule flow, not to decide if a schedule flow should be done.
Correct. Essentially, I'm looking at a lead record, right? And I don't need to trigger a task creation on my scheduled flow if the lead's already been converted.
Yeah.
But I need to give time like a week or two to see if this lead actually gets converted or not.
So my understanding of a schedule flow, everyone jump in here and tell me I'm wrong, is that unlike with a scheduled event, not event, but scheduled task in say like a workflow, that scheduled flow node stores the information about the flow at the point of entry and then just basically picks it up. It's almost like an incomplete interview. And then it just starts right up at that time to say, okay, now keep doing logic. And so if that decision point is from that point forward, then it doesn't even get to that decision until that schedule flow picks up again. That's what I've been led to understand. So your decision should be reevaluating after that time frame, whenever that scheduled flow is supposed to start again.
Okay, so it's not taking a like snapshot of the record as it is at that point and then running it through the scheduled flow 2 weeks later. So if my is converted status changes to true, it'll recognize that a week later, even though the scheduled path was queued up or scheduled or whatever 2 weeks prior to that.
So again, we'd have to look at the flow, but I believe it stores all the variables in that scheduled interview. So if something changed on the lead, in your case, and is not reevaluating that scheduled flow interview, it's not going to know that thing changed. So I think if I heard what you said right. So like say the flag is false, it goes to the scheduled flow node. It waits for however long. When it picks back up, unless you're getting the current state of that record again, it's using the variables that are passed through the interview. I believe that's how it runs.
That was my sneaking suspicion, is that it was taking a like, it's using the record as it was when it was triggered, it's not reassessing it. So I need to re-get it. Okay,
I think that's the safest point, the safest thing to do anyway, just because you're probably capturing the whole record, right? You're not capturing individual fields on the initial get anyway.
I mean, there's not an initial get its record triggered. So yeah, it's just picking up all the fields that are there. But yeah,
right, you're catching the whole record. You're not just assigning specific variables and passing it along. So
correct.
I mean, you're probably safer re-getting it anyway, but we can double check it.
I don't think the entry conditions don't reevaluate.
Yeah.
If that's
so if that is
whatever
true,
it is, it'll just run again. So I always just put another decision, even if I want to. It's a safety thing for me. If I'm going to do a schedule flow, I'll just put another decision to make sure like the case isn't already closed. If I want to send a follow-up on it, I'll just put another decision, check if the case is closed. So it'll just use the record global in the flow and just do another check before, like right at the top of that scheduled path. So
okay, so that's a little bit different than what can I share my screen? Is that
so yeah, please do. Andrew, I think we're saying two different things. So
yeah,
check reevaluating the decision is you do have to do that. But let's use your example. If the case was open when it went into the flow and now it's closed, does the schedule flow know it's closed, or is it holding the state of the record as it when it was passed to this paused interview? And I don't think it keeps track of the record state.
It uses the record as it sits in the database at that point in time when it runs at execution. It gets whatever it is. It doesn't remember at all. It just remembers the record ID and it runs based on that.
So you're saying that you feel that it re-gets the record when the flow reinitiates?
Yeah, I don't think it saves a snapshot of the record at that point in time.
See, and I was under the impression it doesn't re-get. Like normally the node wouldn't. So that's why I'm wondering.
That's what I was thinking too, Square, because I know for a fact orchestration was like that for a while. Like whatever you kicked off as your like record for an orchestration that like status would carry through all the way down, because I had to go back through and add gets into every single one of my
this is easy to test though. I'm gonna get just a playground and make a case, add a record trigger flow for 5 minutes, go update the status and see what it shows at.
Okay, yeah. So I that's what I was doing basically before I came into this meeting, and I was unable to get it, but I wasn't sure if I was just missing something silly or not. So I thought I'd ask you all.
When you debug, does the scheduled flow know the state of the record passed to it?
You have to pick when you debug it, you have to pick which one you're running. So it's hard to tell. Like you can't like be like, okay, now I converted the lead after the fact, so I don't want to like do it anymore, right? Because it'll just read the record at the time. Like I don't know if this is helpful or not. The decision element is just real easy, like record.converted equals false, right? Like if it hasn't been converted yet, send another reminder out.
You know what though, now that I'm thinking about it holistically, you would think that the right way to do it would be to reassess if the record even still exists.
Well, the lead record will still exist. It'll just be converted, right?
No, I'm
There's-
suggesting like, say you create a lead today, 2 weeks from now, something's supposed to happen. When that
Oh.
schedule flow picks back up, did someone delete that lead? Does this flow like have to see if the record even exists so it doesn't throw a fault?
Yeah, or does it throw an error? That's another good question.
Yeah, right. Because if it stores the context like I thought it did, then it would act on something that doesn't exist
Doesn't
anymore.
exist, you're right.
If it does
Well,
what
what if you
Andrew's talking
had-
about, then it would say, wait a minute, this record doesn't exist. I can't do this. And then what happens?
But the other thing too is like, what if you had it where it kept that snapshot of like all the fields, and then you tried to update something? So in your schedule path, you updated whatever field to overdue, and then it's going to have all these old values. So now if you did an assignment to set overdue, and then you push that whole thing to update, you'd actually be wiping out whatever data is in the field. So it wouldn't, I'm pretty sure that it does not do it. It gets whatever the record ID looks like in the database, because otherwise people would be overwriting a bunch of data.
Or Orchestrator works that way though, man. I can speak to that because when I kicked off Orchestrator with a record trigger and then ran a bunch of flows over the course of time, I assumed that it was reassessing the updates that were made by users in those screen flows along the orchestration way, but it was not. It would just pull the original record value that kicked off the orchestration. And my orchestration lasted months, with many users making updates, and they just kept overwriting each other constantly. So
here's a quick way to test it. Just go get a scheduled path to run, turn on full debug logs with workflow set to finer. And when you do that, you'll be able to see if there's a SQL query to get the record. If it doesn't get record at the beginning of that transaction that happens, when you go look in the Apex debug, or the debug logs, you'll be able to see. You're not trying to look at the flow debug. You look at the actual transaction debugs. If it gets the record, then it's taking in the version as it sits in the database. If it doesn't have to get the record, then that's the easiest way to go check.
okay, that makes sense. Do you know, is that going to be that'll be an automated process log then, right? For scheduled flows? Yes.
Yeah, I can send you a help article for capturing debug logs that I totally did not write.
I'm not going to read it if you didn't write it.
But you recommended it, Andrew, so.
No, I literally wrote the help article.
Oh, you did write it.
Help article. Yeah, it was
great. Then I'm definitely going to read it. Okay, yeah, I've actually gone through this article before. Thank you. Okay, cool. Appreciate the input, everybody. I'll keep digging.
Please, if I'm not sure how often you can attend, we'd love to have you back. But regardless, make sure you give us an update either here or in the success community, because I'm super curious too.
All right, I think, is that everybody? Is that everything? Well, it's almost time. It's almost that time.
Yeah, too late. If you didn't get your name in the hat, it's your fault, not ours.
But I'm looking for the better queso. There's got to be better queso than Qdoba, because quite frankly, it's not close by anymore. It used to be in my lobby. I don't work downtown anymore. The one that used to be by my husband's office isn't there anymore, so I can't even
if you're looking for not restaurant, like if you're looking for just general queso, I can't remember, there's a good one at Trader Joe's.
Nah, someone else.
I got a cheese whiz. It's like
No!
a can of fresh dress. You do
Come on.
that, put it in the microwave.
Cheese whiz and a little rotel.
No.
Just saying.
Are we
nothing wrong
not
with
talking to
Rotel and
people in
Velveeta.
Wisconsin? Are we not talking about the cheese capital of the world? And here you guys talking about cheese whiz? Oh.
I'm not in Wisconsin.
Oh.
Joy, it's only almost Wisconsin.
Almost.
No, I'm not in Wisconsin. No.
You gotta hop over the border.
I love cheese. I am not in Wisconsin.
Actually, there's a place, Jose's Blue Sombrero. That was pretty darn tasty. Good cheese.
All
a good
right.
one, too.
All right.
If you ever
Well,
come
friends,
visit,
Thank you.
on.
Thank you, everybody. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Go have your your Friday coffee or whatever you're going to do and wrap up your day, because y'all are amazing. Thanks for coming. Thanks for visiting.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye,
Talk
all.
to us on the Twitters, on the LinkedIn, on the Trailblazer community, all those things. We'll see you later.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, Rochelle.
I look
Jack and
forward
everybody.
all week to talking
Yeah.
to you guys.
Well, it's 2 weeks, 2 weeks at a time, Rochelle. We'll see you.
Well, I'm truly